Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our first SBU webinar presentation. It is the first of the webinar series for adults with spina bifida. It's called Get Fit and Stay Healthy. And we're going to go ahead and get started. And just a couple of things I wanted you to know. As you think of questions, please go ahead and submit them to us, and then we will do our best to cover all of the questions towards the end of the session. So let's go ahead and get started. Today's presenters, we're going to let them introduce themselves, and would like to start with Carrie.
Hi, I'm Carrie Vanderbaum, and I am the Implementation Coordinator for the National Center on Health, Physical Activity, and Disability, or what we call NCPAD. I myself am a person with spina bifida, and happy to be here, and I can't wait to be able to share all the information we have with you all today. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Carrie. And then just one more thing, Carrie we're not going to be able to see her on video today, but we'll see the other presenters. And Ashley, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so hello everybody, I'm Ashley Thomas, and I am also, have lived 56 years with spina bifida, so I think I'm the oldest one on the group. And I am the founder and executive director of Bridge to Sports, which is an adaptive sport program in North Carolina. So I really am thrilled to share one of my passions, which is staying fit and active with spina bifida.
Thank you, Ashley. And Shannon, what about you?
Hi, everybody. I'm Shannon Bevins, and I am the Adult Transition Care Coordinator with the Spina Bifida program at Orlando Health, which is the hospital that is trying to develop some adult care for our individuals with spina bifida. And I'm also the program coordinator for the Spina Bifida Association of Central Florida. And I am also 30 years old, an adult with spina bifida, so I'm very happy to share my love of fitness with you all today.
Thank you all. And now Judy, would you like to tell us about yourself?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, good. Hi everyone, my name is Judy Thibodeau, and as of this January, I'm with the Spina Bifida Association as the Director of Research and Services. But the previous 13 years, I worked at CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, on the National Spina Bifida Program. So I'm looking forward to this, our first SBU webinar, and I hope that it provides meaningful information to you as well.
Thank you, Judy. And I'm Juanita Panliner, and I work for the Spina Bifida Association. I've been there since about 2014, and my role is I'm the National Resource Center Manager. So I basically field many questions from the community and just, help out. And it's been actually my joy, and also a little bit nerve-wracking, but my joy to work on this program as well, on the SBU program. So Judy, would you like to tell us a little bit about what is SBU?
Right. Thank you, Juanita. So this webinar series will include some every year, conversational presentations by people with spina bifida, professionals who work with spina bifida, on topics that are important to people, adults particularly, with spina bifida. We want there to be adults with spina bifida. We find many, this has been a wonderful experience to find people with spina bifida who are physically fit and active and have worked to become that way, and who will share their experiences with you. The advice provided will be practical, and you can reference the information later, and we consider this advice to be something that you can reasonably attempt to do. We chose the topics based on a survey of adults that was administered in 2016, and the adults told us what issues were most important to them to live their lives as successfully as possible. So we will have other topics in 2019. We expect to do 4 webinars, taking care of your mental health, staying social, looking at dating, bowel health, sexual health, and sexuality, independence, and becoming a mother or father with spina bifida. So we believe that because you've told us these topics are important, that the webinars will be meaningful to you.
Yes, and we don't have dates for those events yet, but we will let you know as soon as we do, the same way that you found out about this session. So what we hope that you take away from today's webinar is an understanding that it is possible to get fit and stay healthy. And we're going to review the why it's important to be physically active, some ideas about where you can go, how you can get started, how you can become active, regardless of what your situation might be, and what are some things that you can do. Again, what are some attainable things that you can do so that you can increase your level of physical activity and really make it a part of your life. So now we would like to check in with our presenters, with our panelists, about what prompted them to become physically active and how you got started. So Ashley, please let us know how you got, what got you on the road to physical activity.
Well, I was spina bifida that was ambulatory. I have had 6 hip replacements, so that may help people understand what my ability of ambulatory was. Had a lovely walk, but wasn't very effective. I have no feeling in my legs. And so for me, I know when I was growing up, the big thing was keep your weight down. So that was one thing, but man, if you can't get exercise in, because it was very difficult for me to walk, it's kind of like good luck with that. So I do have 3 kids, and I would say they were my physical exercise. And when I got up to having that 6th hip replacement, finally they said, do you want a wheelchair? And I was so happy to have one, because it was not easy functioning without one. But my energy levels changed so significantly that I thought, wow, could I do a 5K in a wheelchair? And my daughter was in high school at that time, and they were doing a 5K at her school for a fundraiser. So she and I did our first 5K together. However, before I did that, and I tried to find a place to exercise. In the 80s, it was big trying to get fitness, but at the YMCA at that time, as well as any gym, I was considered too high risk because they didn't know enough about spina bifida. So my trying to find a way to exercise became very difficult. So a friend went with me to the YMCA because I kept saying, no, they won't let me go there. And that's one of my rules when you get started with trying to find physical activity, is take a friend. It's always scary, a little bit overwhelming. And if you've had some negative experiences, it's easy to get discouraged quickly. So she became my friend, and then I found a personal trainer who began stretching out my T-bands and really implementing stretching, which I'm a big advocate, especially as I get older. Stretching is my way of keeping rid of pain. So that is kind of very quickly how I got started.
Thank you so much, Ashley. And Shannon, would you like to tell us how you got started?
Sure. So my fitness journey started about 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago. I had just finished graduate school, and if anybody knows, going through any type of graduate program, you tend to be not very active, and it adds a lot of stress and whatnot. So after I had finished grad school, I was really, really looking for some way to be active. And the first job that I had gotten out of grad school, I was working in a skilled nursing facility. And I had several patients on my caseload who had spina bifida, and they were young, or what I consider to be young, like in their 30s, 40s. And that scared me. I didn't want that to happen to me. So It started off with me just wanting to make sure that I kept myself as healthy as possible. As Ashley had mentioned, weight was a big deal. I had packed on some weight in grad school, and I needed to get it off. So I had gone to a lot of what we would call regular gyms, and none of those gyms would work with me because they were too intimidated or I was considered too high risk. So that was a common thing. And so nobody would really work with me until one day I had a business card of Orange Theory Fitness just at a friend's house, and I called this lady. She was a personal trainer there, and I was basically telling her everything about my disability and what I couldn't do and what I was not capable of doing. And she said, well, why don't you just come in and let's see what you can do? And we'll just start there. And from there, that started as like a launching pad for me doing other types of physical fitness. But Orange Theory Fitness really was the program that not only gave me my functional fitness, but gave me a love for it. And so within the first year of working with them, when I first started, I couldn't even sit on a spin bike. And within like the first year, I was physically walking a 5K. And now I do dry tries. And it's kind of opened up this whole other world for me to do other types of fitness. So that's kind of how I started.
Well, thank you. Just for everybody who might not be aware, what is a dry try?
So a dry triathlon is, it's something that we did at Orange Theory Fitness, but it's 2,000 meter row, 300 body weight exercises, and then the equivalent of a 5K on a treadmill or a strider. And I did it on the strider because I can't walk on a treadmill. So I did it on the strider and then the row and then the 300 body weight exercises.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, and now, Carrie, please tell us how you got started.
Yeah. So as a kid, I'd say I was, originally got active out of necessity. It was so I could keep up with my brother and sister and all the neighborhood kids. We were always outside climbing trees, riding skateboards, and I used to even love to do stuff like gardening with my mom. But again, it really was a true love, being outdoors and moving around. It was just always a really important part of my life and something that we just did. I grew up in a pretty small town, and we didn't have really any adapted activities for people with disabilities. So it wasn't until I got out of high school and I was living on my own in a bigger city that I got to try out wheelchair sports for the first time, which, I immediately fell in love with it, or all of them really, and just made it a priority in my life. But I think it's important to know that as you get older and just your life situation changes, that your physical activity and things that you like or want to do, it evolves as well. And so you have to be ready to find those different motivators and different ways to overcome barriers that you might face related to physical activity. Because I'll be honest and I'll say that I personally do not like working out in a gym. But before, when I was a competitive athlete, I did do it because I had to be strong and in order to be really good at my sport and water skiing. But since I'm no longer a competitive athlete, my activity is quite different. Again, because I'm not really motivated to go to a gym, but I do like things like hiking and things like Ashley does, like kayaking, and even just walking my dog very leisurely. But as I do these things, I try to be really conscious about doing these things with enough gusto, if you will, just so that, that my heart rate will go up and I'll get some of those benefits, those health benefits from those different activities, even though I might not be necessarily working out hard in a gym. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, my journey.
No, good. Thank you so much. So while we're at it, would you like to go ahead and tell us then why, Carrie, is it important to be physically active?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for those of you who are listening and you think, oh, I'm not an athlete, therefore I can't exercise or I don't like physical activity, I think it's really important to first understand that there's definitely a difference between being an athlete, exercising, and doing physical activity. You don't need to be an athlete to do exercise or physical activity. And, I love Ashley and Shannon's stories and really even mine, because I didn't get into it really until I was an adult. But so just to differentiate the difference, physical activity is simply just movement. You move around and you activate your muscles when you're pushing your wheelchair or walking. You move and activate your muscles when you're working in the garden or cleaning your house. So these things can be considered physical activity, or they are physical activity. Exercise, though, it is a part of physical activity, but it's much more intentional or planned out. And so when you do exercise, you might be focused on improving your heart or your lungs, right? Breathing and being able to breathe well, or your physical or your muscle physical health, right? Building up muscle. So when you hear the word exercise, you might get an image of people working out in a gym or running or cycling, things like that. But regardless of having spina bifida or not, physical activity is really important for everyone. You can think of it like medicine, and some people do call it medicine. Physical activity is an important medicine that helps treat and prevent bad health. But for people with spina bifida, physical activity is even more critical for many reasons. And both Ashley and Shannon alluded to some of those. I'm only going to highlight a few for the sake of time, but there's many, many different reasons why physical activity and exercise are important. Physical activity can prevent things like gaining weight. It helps you to maintain your weight. And it's really important for us, whether you're walking or use a wheelchair, right? Because it helps us to remain independent in taking care of ourselves. So whether you're trying to transfer out of your wheelchair into a car or on a toilet, being able to walk from one college classroom to another, gaining weight can negatively affect your ability to move and be independent. Or even if you have to have someone assist you transferring in and out of your chair, gaining weight is going to make it harder for that person too, which will then affect the way that you're able to do things. And again, leading to that decrease in your independence. The second reason, and somewhat related to weight gain, is heart health. So heart health is so important. Physical activity can prevent and treat bad conditions like heart problems or high blood pressure, things that maybe you don't realize now, but they definitely will rear their head as we age, especially for those of us who are aging with a disability. A third reason why it's important, and I know if you're like me and many other people with spina bifida, you might experience pain. Physical activity can actually help to lessen the pain you might experience. I think it's really important to get some advice or guidance from a professional, like a fitness trainer in a gym or a physical therapist, about what exercises to do, though, if you're trying to address specific pain. For me, I have a lot of neck pain, and so strengthening my neck muscles and doing stretches helps me a lot. And finally, physical activity is important for our mental health. A lot of us with spina bifida deal with depression and anxiety, and physical activity can really help to keep some of those dark days in check. So by doing physical activity, you actually activate good chemicals in your body that can help improve mood, right? So sometimes if you're in a bad mood or you're just kind of feeling down and sad, physical activity can help improve that. And physical activity can be fun. I think that's probably one of the main reasons, right? Because, you can do it with other people, like Ashley was talking about, and being social, or like me, I love to be outdoors in the fresh air. And so those are just a few reasons why it's important, but there's definitely many more.
Well, that was really good. That was really good. Thank you so much, Carrie. Really important things. So Ashley, now maybe, I'm sorry, Shannon, maybe you can tell us why you think it's important to be physically active.
Sure. Well, absolutely everything that Carrie just said, I second, because that is, I can definitely say that's true in my own life. It's not only just a physical thing like keeping your weight down, but it's your mental health, it's, you know, being social, it's functional fitness, it's being able to do things on a daily basis, transferring in and out of your chair. And I think for me, in my job, so part of my job is to, like I said, try to help develop some adult care for people with spina bifida, which we know is lacking. A huge piece of that is preventable conditions, things that people show up into the emergency room with that could be prevented. And exercise really, really helps that. And I know that from personal experience, personally. But exercise helps with circulation. It helps with heart health. It reduces the risk of having pressure ulcers, which we know is a huge thing. And so within my work, we see a lot of patients who show up in the emergency room, and there are ways, if we could, you know, encourage them to be more physically active, that may reduce that number of people who have to go to the emergency room. So I think just for me, the importance is that so much of this can be prevented. Not all of it, certainly, but there is a good portion of it that if you are either outside doing something, or if you're in a gym, or however you want to be physically active and getting your heart rate up and getting that circulation through your body and making sure that you're moving, can greatly, greatly reduce your chances of having to end up with issues like skin sores or pressure ulcers or anything like that. So I would say that would be the number one thing that I would say from my perspective why it would be important. And that's my take on it, is I try to outrun, for lack of things that I can, if I can avoid it, I will.
Great, very good. Thank you so much, Shannon. And now, Ashley, would you like to tell us why it's important for you to be physically active?
So absolutely. So I think Shannon and Carrie did an excellent job. I will talk a little bit more about, you know, being older, because I am 56 and I have low blood pressure and my heart is in good shape. And I think part of that is really cultivating the idea of being active. So you absolutely can keep your body strength as you get older. And I think, to Shannon's point, we do have to make that effort to make those choices. And every day, some days you wake up and you're in more pain than you were the day before, which is something that I do deal with. But the reality is, I know if I start exercising, some of this pain will go away. And I know that is so, it's not intuitive to think that that really works. But if I hit certain levels, what goes to my brain now is, let me go out and push 5 miles and I will feel so much better. And it takes, you know, I never started out being able to do 5 miles or kayak 10 miles. I mean, those are things I was not able to do. And so I do believe, to Carrie's point, being outside really does help your mental health as well. There's something about the sun and fresh air that really is invigorating for those days that you're thinking, today was a tough day. The other thing that I want to say for me personally is the exercise absolutely helps with the whole bowel situation functioning a little more regularly. So if anyone's struggling with that, the activity also helps your bowel mat, you know, just that whole management piece. The other thing I found as I get older, I will end up having pain due to not stretching. And if you are someone who uses a wheelchair, or you're not able to use your legs as well as you could, stretching is so important. And so that is a part of my daily routine. It's just getting on the floor and stretching. It will keep me from having lower back pain just because I'm sitting so much. So, you know, that's a simple thing you can do at home. And like Carrie, I was a competitive athlete. I tend to not go to the gym if I don't have to be there, but certainly finding a routine at home, which makes things very accessible, is something that we all can be a part of. This picture is a group of folks across the country that ended up doing the 60-mile Komen walk. There were about 10 of us that tried to see if this would be accessible. And it's going back to having a group and finding that social piece and working together to successfully complete. And so that started off with just a group saying, let's go and take a walk together. So you don't have to go big. It can be something very practical and within your own community.
Okay. Very good, Ashley. So thank you for that. And with that in mind, what would you tell a person who is trying to get active either for the first time or who maybe hasn't been active for a while?
So for me, I think sometimes when your body doesn't work the way you see the rest of the world's working, psychologically, that will knock you down. I am a big proponent of finding someone to work with, whether that's taking a walk, whether that's going to a gym, whether that's I'm in the country and I don't have those opportunities, finding someone will say, we're going to do floor exercises here on the living room floor. I think having a friend also helps with accountability. So if you're feeling, for whatever reason today, I don't feel like it, you've got someone who will kind of bolster out and say, yeah, we're going to do this thing. The other thing is you can celebrate success. You can say, wow, we just walked a mile. Can you believe that? And you have someone that you're kind of going through the ups and downs of getting started. So my big thing is find a friend, could be anyone, and commit to getting started.
Okay, very good. Awesome, thank you. And Shannon, what would you tell someone who is thinking about it, who hasn't, been active for a while, or who's just getting started?
Well, I would also say find a friend, find a social community, because research even shows that you're apt to go do physical activity if you are with other people. So I would definitely say that. But I would also say, make sure that whatever it is that you're doing is that you like it. And I'm not saying that you have to be, like, if you don't, I'm weird and I do enjoy going to a gym, but if you, I'm not saying that you have to love every single moment of it, but really think about if it's something that you're going to be able to stick to. And if you are dreading it every single day, you're not going to stick to it. You're not going to, you might start it, and if you wake up every morning thinking that you're going to dread it, then that's not going to be something that's sustainable for you. So I would say think really hard about what it is that you like, and really take mental note of things that you like. Like if you enjoy being outside more, then think about those types of opportunities. If you want to learn more about how to utilize gym equipment, if that's something that interests you, think about what opportunities you can do that way. But definitely my big thing is it has to be something that that you're going to be able to stick to and turn into a sustainable program.
Very good, thank you. And Carrie, what would you tell a person that's trying to get active for the first time or who hasn't been active for a while?
Yeah, so exactly what Ashley and Shannon just covered. First, definitely explore your options. What do you like to do? Because as Shannon said, it's very, very important in order for you to be able to sustain whatever it is you're doing, right? You got to like it. And then explore what resources you have or don't have. What do you have in relation to time and money? Do you want to work out at home or in a gym? Like Ashley said, do you want to do it with a friend? Do you need the friend? Because it is very important to have, or it can be a really important piece to have if you have someone to help motivate you and someone to do this with. But for some of you, you might like to do it alone. So exploring all those options is going to be important. It's going to be your important foundation. Second, I would say set goals. Start small. I don't think they have to be big goals. You don't have to say, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, because I've done that and I really probably didn't do so well reaching those goals. So start small. It can be things like, I'm going to look for resources on the website to see what I can do, what I might like to do, right? Or you can set a small goal about wanting to buy a set of 5-pound weights. You know, you can buy them used really cheap. And maybe you're not going to use them 3 days in a row, but you start off with 1 day. But then as you accomplish these small goals, continue setting them and challenge yourself and set them a little bit bigger, right? So you reached your goal of using your 5-pound weights 1 day a week. But then you can set a bigger goal and say, you know what, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to use my 5-pound weights 2 or 3 times a week and for 3 weeks in a row. And then once you reach that, keep setting those goals and making them more harder, right? And then third, I'd say, you know, plan for the challenges, because there's definitely going to be barriers that you're going to encounter as you start or you're continuing your journey doing physical activity or exercise, right? You got to plan for those barriers. What if you do have an exercise buddy, but they get sick? Are you going to still go to the gym? Or do you need to do something at home alone? You know, if you plan that you're going to go for a walk around your neighborhood, but it rains, what's your alternative plan? What can you do inside your house while it's raining? So these are all important things, I think, to take into consideration. And then the fourth thing I would say, and it's Ashley already mentioned it, but reward yourself. If you reach your goals, you know, reward yourself. Maybe you get to go buy a new pair of shoes or a new top that you get to exercise in. But think about what those rewards are, because, well, yeah, they're great motivators.
So like, don't reward yourself with a bacon pizza.
No, you probably shouldn't. But I mean, if that's what motivates you, maybe.
Maybe. Okay, very good. Thank you, Carrie. All right, so now we're going to go through a couple of, Carrie, you were going to talk about some types of exercises that one could do at home or in the neighborhood. And give me a moment. If these things don't open up right away, please let me know.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different resources out there, a lot of different things online, videos, and many of these resources are free for you to access. So I work, again, at the National Center on Health, Physical Activity, and Disability, or what we call NCPAD. And this is a really great resource, and that is free. And they have specialists that you can email or call if you have questions about what you can do or where you can go for physical activity and exercise. And they have a lot of videos about how to do physical activity and exercise, whether you want to go to a gym or just stay at home. The first link is a link for exercises that they put together for people with spina bifida. So whether you walk or use a wheelchair, there's something for everyone. This link that Juanita clicked on shows the use of doing a flexibility exercise to stretch his hamstring. So to the right of the picture, you'll see it says table of contents, and you can click on the list of those activities for other exercises that you might want to learn how to do or try them out yourself. The picture on the link was of a youth, but I just want to be very clear that all of these exercises are for adults as well.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize for if I wasn't able to show you those stretches, but like I mentioned, they were all going to be, or those exercises, excuse me, they're all going to be available after the webinar.
And then the second and third videos that are on the slide, again, there are also links that you'll be able to click on after in the archived training. But I really like these videos because they are videos that you can adapt to make easier. And they use little to no equipment, and they can be done at home. So this first video is of what we call wall balls. And you can use a basketball or a volleyball instead of this medicine ball that they're using in the video. and you still get a really great workout. And so, like, basketball or volleyball, you can actually buy, secondhand, or probably pick up at a thrift store for pretty cheap. The third video, just quickly, is a video of what are called wheelchair burpees. And all you need is a bed or maybe another chair to transfer onto. This one's really great for strengthening, I think, your core muscles and some arm muscles, but also if you were to try this at home, you would probably start feeling a little bit winded. So it can help with your cardiovascular or fitness levels as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Carrie. And now Shannon, let me see if I can, not Shannon, I'm sorry, Ashley, let me see if I can show this,
Okay.
this link to one of your favorite tools.
Yes. So, as I said, I was competitive earlier, and I was at a gym and did the weights and all of that. As I got older, to preserve joint wear and tear, I ended up going more towards resistance training. And I will say I competed at Worlds in kayaking when I was 52, and all I did was resistant training. And I think that's something that when you're young, you've got a little more strength. As you get older, you really want to preserve what you have so that you can maintain your independence as long as possible. So I ended up doing a lot of work with the resistance bands. And the person who developed this, they double checked it, and I am latex active, so if I touch it, I will start having problems. So that was one concern I had when I learned about these. And the way they process these, that goes through 3 or 4 different stages. So they're a little different than what we typically think of with the TheraBands and things like that. But the guy who created this actually is someone I knew, so he was very aware of when things don't work totally. And so he adapted a lot of things using the rubber bands. But again, it's something you can do at home. So if you're in a place where you may not have access to a gym, you can get a really good workout using these. They're also, to get a basic set, is like $35. So it's very affordable. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I like it too. But I am still using the system today. So I love it.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, and now Shannon, I'm going to try to get to some of your resources. Yeah, this is the one about, so discover accessible fitness.
Yes, so I also absolutely love that website. I'm obsessed with it, and I try really hard with our constituents and my patients. If they don't have the ability to, go to a gym or whatnot, this is a great resource. But this actual, this book we actually used for our first health and wellness workshop with SBA CFL, Spina Bifida Association of Central Florida. That was one of my big pushes when coming on board with this, was that we tried to develop a health and wellness program. And this just has a lot of really great resources on how to get started in a gym, how to be selective on what it is that you want to do, how to utilize the equipment. And then I think there's some other things in there about like you said, if you can't join a gym or whatnot. But I think that this is a great resource, and it does break down the different types of disabilities, and spina bifida is in there. So I absolutely love that book.
Excellent. And yeah, and this too will be part of one of the resources that we share. Okay, next. Now, you were talking about Orange Theory earlier.
Well, yeah, and we don't have to, this is not something that is for everyone. I will say that, and I'm not the YMCA is not either, but the point to showing those 2 links is that if you are interested in going into a gym or joining a health club, it does not have to be overwhelming. It does not have to be something that you should feel fearful of. And I would just say, if you have a community center that's near you or a YMCA that's near you, go in there and ask questions. Ask questions of the personal trainers, and really go through there and figure out if it's something that you're going to be able to do. So for me, Orange Theory works because, like I said, it helps me go from using my wheelchair more often to not having to use it as much. And it is not something that's for everyone, but it definitely is for some people. We've had, I think I was the first person in Orange Theory who had a disability. But so far within like the last 5 years, we've had other people with other types of disabilities start to use that program. And then the YMCA, I just like because they have different programs, and we do Zumba for our group. We do an integrative Zumba where we have able-bodied Zumba dancers and we integrate disabled dancers in with that group. So maybe if you don't want to do just a fitness routine that's just for people with disabilities, like for me, I wanted to be with everybody else. I didn't want to have something that was specific for people with disabilities. So those are just options for people.
Okay. Oh, those are really, really good. Thank you very much for sharing those. And and then these are some additional resources that will be made available later. This video, How to Choose a Fitness Center, it's about 5 minutes long, so we're not going to feature it now, but it's a really good introduction to visiting a fitness facility for the first time, or actually before the first time, what questions to ask of the staff, just to make sure that they will meet your needs, and just, to make sure that they, if they can make adjustments, et cetera, to what they offer. And did anybody else, did any of our panelists want to say anything about any of these resources for now, or should we move on to questions?
Move on to questions, I think.
Move on to questions there, and there it is, questions. And we have a question from a group exercise fitness instructor with spina bifida, having trouble with gathering a group to take the class, which prevents her from being hired. What are some things that you could do to get a group together to exercise? For example, Shannon, you had gotten a group together to do Zumba.
Yes.
So I guess, yeah, so what are some things that you could do to get a group together to do exercise?
Well, I think that part of it would be, it has to appeal to people. And so I would say, I don't know if when you're advertising it, how the language that you're using, but I think if people, like for us, people had to feel like they were going to be included and that they were going to be able to do it. So we didn't just say, you're going to be in this big room with a whole bunch of able-bodied people dancing. We said, you're going to be with a group of other disabled people who have spina bifida, and we're just going to have a judgment-free zone. And also, we did use like healthy snacks as an incentive. So we fed people a healthy lunch afterwards. So I don't know if that helps.
So, and I'll, because we do programming, and what I loved, Shannon, is when you talked about doing inclusive activity, because I think, your community needs to be bigger than just people with disability. I think for sustainability and interconnectedness in life, that having activities that engage both. So I think creating a group that allows both able-bodied and people with disabilities to be a part creates a stronger success. I can tell you, when we start a new program in our organization, we are committed for 3 years to really get it to grow and blossom. So my rule of thumb is really think through like, who are your target audience? And then do you need to share the information to the rehab hospital, to an OT-PT clinic, so they know it's available? And I am a big visual, because when I first started and someone said you could do these things, my experience was like, no, I can't even go to the YMCA. And so I had to overcome the no. And I think pictures, the picture Shannon provided with some of her things, I thought was awesome. But creating an image so they can see that it is a place where everyone is welcome. And then the other big thing I have is making sure wherever you choose really is wheelchair accessible and that the bathrooms are wheelchair accessible. Because if someone shows up and you cannot get them in or manage their personal care in a respectful way, that word of mouth goes out much quicker than creating a very positive experience. So I think checking back at your facilities and you know, just making sure it's a place where people can come in.
Okay.
And just to piggyback off of what they both have already covered, those were both of my thoughts exactly. I think if you're a fitness trainer, you can lead a class that's for everyone, that's inclusive, not just for people with disabilities, but for people without disabilities as well. And make sure that, whoever you're working for realizes that just because you might have a disability doesn't mean you can't be a fitness trainer for someone without a disability. And then second, I think, what they were both talking about and alluding to is knowing if you are targeting people with disabilities and you really want to get them to your class, you might have to do some extra legwork. It's just like any other business. So maybe do a survey if you haven't already done this, right? To find out why people aren't coming to your class. What are the barriers? Is it cost? Is it transportation? Maybe it is because advertisements don't show people with disabilities, so they don't think that the class is inviting for them. And I think Shannon mentioned it. What do they want to do? What kind of class do they want to do? Do they want to do a Zumba, or would they prefer to do weightlifting? What's going to get them through that door? And so, you might need to take some time to do a survey and learn that stuff.
Okay. We got a comment, actually, really useful, that if you are on, and this actually speaks to the part about cost. If you're on a Medicare C plan, one of the benefits offered by some plans is a gym membership, and one of them is called Silver Sneakers. So I thought that was useful to know too. Because I know that for many people, the cost of joining or going to a facility might also be part of the issue.
Yeah, great. I think that's a really important point. And again, I think it goes back to learning what your resources are, and what kind of different benefits are out there. Benefits as far as, having insurance cover some of these classes or a gym membership. So I think that's a great point.
Mm-hmm. And to that, go ahead. Somebody else was going to say something.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, and definitely access that video about picking out a gym, because I think that one does a really nice job of covering a lot of what we're talking about, right? Like, what questions do you ask before going? Is the locker room accessible? Do they have accessible parking? If they don't have very much equipment that you can use, how do you ask them to purchase that and provide it for you? And if they can't, you can ask for a reduction in membership fee because you're not able to access all different parts of the gym, which might feel uncomfortable, but watch the video and see how Mary Allison does it. And hopefully you'll find that useful.
Yeah, I really liked how she did that too. It was, very clear and assertive, but she was definitely not, she was very pleasant. And so it was a nice, good example. And actually that kind of ties into another question, which is, and I think maybe we've touched on it a little bit, is how do you find resources for adults, for example, where you live in an area where an adaptive sports are for kids only, or for veterans, or like we talked about, the cost. It might be cost prohibitive.
So Because this is what I do. I run an organization that does adaptive sports. My thing is kids grow up and we all become adults, and adults with disabilities do need activity. If there are programming going on in your community for children, I would ask the organizer if there was a way you could extend and see about providing programming for adults. I know in my area, we have very low cost to be involved in programming. So I know I can only answer for what we do here, but I was one, if you're going to get involved in something, I always think I need to be part of that solution. If I'm looking for a solution for myself, I should be part of the answer. But find out who the groups are, and maybe you can learn how to do grant writing. Maybe you can help volunteer and say, I'll help check people in. But I have found my most effective advocacy on any level that I've been involved in is when I've also brought to the table, let me help, and what can I do to help solve the problem? And I think that's a strong win. But I would talk to the organizers there and say, what can we do to extend?
Okay. Very good. So, and actually one of the comments, we have another comment from the person, Anya, who did the original question about getting a group together. And so she added, her trouble is being hired at gyms because the format has only been for and I don't know what that means, I'm sorry.
People with disabilities.
People with disabilities, thank you. I'm the only instructor with a disability out of a network of 2,000, so I'm basically pioneering a new movement.
It's going to take time, Anya. I appreciate your spirit, and I would say, and I can only speak to my experience. I started this organization 12 years ago. We got legislation through to take adaptive sports into public school. You have to be committed for the long game. When you're groundbreaking, it's going to take time. And I would say find a couple of other people who will be your cheerleaders so that you don't get discouraged. You may, in the beginning, as I did, I ran programming and I was not a paid staff. I did it totally as a volunteer because I had to prove myself, B, what I thought was something that we could accomplish. But I had my cheerleaders that kind of volunteered and worked with me. And I would encourage you to think along that line. Obviously, it's not paying your bills, and I'm sorry about that. But sometimes if you are the groundbreaker, you've got to prove yourself first. So I would maybe tackle it from that angle.
And hi, this is Carrie. Hi, Anya. So glad you're joining us today. Yeah, exactly. It's hard when you are a groundbreaker, and I think that's where it's important. One, I think sometimes it's hard to be an advocate for yourself. But there's definitely rights and laws that protect you, and maybe that's maybe your last resort to go to. But like Ashley said, it might take some extra work on your part, whether it's maybe going to hang out at the gym and getting to know these the participants or the people working out in the gym, so that they know who you are and what your qualifications are, because I know you've got great qualifications and the education to back up what you're doing. And so getting to know some of those people in the gym who then might, want to take your class and understand that you're super talented and know exactly what you're doing. But, I think it's finding your champions as well. Whether it's someone who works at the gym who can maybe give you a class to cover if they can't, make a class. So then you're getting in and leading a class without having to do recruiting. But then too, again, if it becomes like a policy or advocacy issue, you could even reach out to NICPAD. We have some great resources and people who can help champion for you to get your foot in the door.
Hi, Anya, this is Shannon, and I'm just gonna second all of those comments. I think if you can get into a gym, and maybe if that instructor will bring you into their class, like to have you just demo a few things, just so that people can kind of get a feel as to how awesome you are, because I know how awesome you are. You have the education to back it up. I think it is just proving yourself. And unfortunately, when you have a disability and you're trying to appeal to that type of audience, you're just gonna have to prove yourself a little bit more. But yeah, get into the gym and see if you can't kind of immerse yourself in that culture, in that group, and see if you can kind of show them how good you are.
Well, thank you so much to everybody, to our panelists, and for all the questions that we got. We have just a couple more minutes in case anybody wanted to submit any additional questions. Otherwise, then we'll just, again, say thank you so much. I will send you, for those of you who registered or online, I will send you a separate email with this SurveyMonkey link so that you can make sure that you evaluate the presentation and give us your thoughts so we know what to do the next time. And there will also be an archive recording of this presentation, which we will share, if not today, then tomorrow or in the next couple of days on our Facebook pages. So again, we thank you so much. If you have any additional questions for the panelists, please feel free to send either Judy or myself an email. We will be happy to forward those to them. And our email addresses are listed here. Or you can just send an email to the general SBA at sbaa@sbaa.org address, and I can field that to the panelists as well. Again, thank you so much to everybody. Our panelists, I'm going to say one more time, do you have anything else that you'd like to share before we disconnect?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, take care.